Dust Bunny. If I had to describe this movie in one sentence, it's basically Léon the professional meets Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, directed by a goth Wes Anderson on a sugar rush. I walked in ready to worship at the altar of Bryan Fuller and Mads Mikkelsen, and I walked out feeling like I just ate a 5-course meal where every dish was delicious separately, but together they tasted like orange juice and toothpaste. Today we're dissecting Dust Bunny. We're going to talk about the incredible visual style, the stellar cast, and why this movie is the ultimate example of great ingredients, weird stew. We need to talk about why the tone feels like it's fighting itself and why being quirky isn't enough to save a dragging second act. And stick around because we're going to talk about some thumb-sucking deterrent nail polish that's simultaneously the dumbest and most brilliant Chekhov's gun I've seen all year. The movie opens in an unnamed city, and right away you know you're watching a Bryan Fuller production. If you're like me, you love Fuller. Pushing Daisies, masterpiece. Hannibal, pure art. Even the first 2 seasons of American Gods I really liked. The guy has a vision, but he also has a curse of leaving projects early due to creative differences. RIP to his Star Trek show. But here, he's in full control. We meet 8-year-old Aurora. She lives across the hall from Unit 5B, played by the Danish deity himself, Mads Mikkelsen. Aurora is obsessed with him. One night, she sneaks out and watches him fight a dragon in Chinatown. Now, the movie shows us what she sees, a fantasy battle, but in reality, Mads is just John Wicking a bunch of gangsters hiding under a parade costume. This is where the movie is strongest, filtering the extreme violence through the lens of a child's imagination. It's got that dark, gritty, graphic novel realism, but splashed with the neon fantasy. But things get dark. Aurora is convinced there's a monster under her bed, a dust bunny. She warns her parents not to step on the floor. They ignore her. Try to soothe her, and then boom, they get eaten. Aurora wakes up alone in a ravaged apartment. This setup, I think it's fantastic. It actually reminds me of those 80s movies that were marketed to kids that were actually traumatizingly scary, like Return to Oz or The Witches. It's got that kids' first horror movie vibe. So Aurora does the logical thing. She grabs her piggy bank, goes next door to hire a hitman to kill the monster. Now Mads, or 5B, thinks she's talking in metaphors. He assumes the monster is a code name for the assassins who killed her parents that were trying to get him. He takes the job out of guilt. And this is where the cracks start to show. We enter the Léon the professional phase. We've got the hardened killer and the precocious child. We even get Sigourney Weaver showing up as Laverne, 5B's handler. The cast is stacked, but here's the problem. It's like a tone stew. The movie is trying to be 3 things at once. A whimsical fairy tale, a hard R action flick, and a psychological horror. And these flavors, they just aren't blending. The quirkiness and the comedy constantly undercut the tension. You're watching Mads dismantle a hitman in a brutal hand-to-hand fight, but the music and the editing are telling you it's a whimsical romp. It just feels half-baked. And then we hit the second act slump. Aurora and 5B are dodging a child protection agent named Brenda, hiding bodies and bonding. But the pacing just kind of dies. The movie spins its wheels. We get scene after scene of 5B saying, "The monster isn't real, kid." And Aurora's saying, "Yes, it is." And it's just kind of repetitive. We know the monster is real because we're watching a movie called Dust Bunny. So watching the characters deny it for 45 minutes feels like a stall tactic. But there is a fascinating thread here about trauma. Aurora admits she wished for the monster because her foster parents weren't nice. We start to wonder, is the monster a manifestation of her guilt? Is it a Babadook situation? Hold that thought because the answer is way stupider and probably way more fun than some psychological metaphor. So we're entering spoiler territory. If you want to watch the Mads Mikkelsen look confused in a cardigan for 2 hours, go watch it and come back. But honestly, you have to stay to hear about the finale. Because remember the open loop about the nail polish I mentioned earlier? You need to see how they pay it off, and it is kind of wild. So the climax. It turns out the CPS agent, Brenda, is actually FBI. She's tracking 5B. Laverne, Sigourney Weaver, admits she sent the hitman to tie up loose ends. Suddenly, everyone converges on Aurora's apartment. The hitman, the FBI, Mads Mikkelsen, it's a Mexican standoff. Guns are drawn, tensions are high. And then the floor explodes. The monster is real. It is a literal giant vicious CGI dust bunny. And I don't mean a scary shadow creature, I mean it looks like Lenten hate. It proceeds to consume everyone. The hitman, eaten. The FBI agent, eaten. It's a massacre. And then it eats Mads Mikkelsen. But wait, remember earlier in the film, they established that Aurora wears that bitter tasting anti-thumb sucking polish. And Mads, he grabbed it earlier. The dust bunny spits him out because he tastes bad. I'm not joking. The emotional climax of this film hinges on Mads Mikkelsen tasting like chemicals. It is the most Bryan Fuller thing to ever happen. Finally, Aurora stands up to the beast. She realizes the monster is hers. She looks it in the eye and says, no. The monster backs off. Mads tells her, this monster is yours. You have to learn to control it. And they drive off into the sunset to start a new life, presumably with a very dangerous lint ball in the trunk. So what was this movie actually about? On the surface, it's a mess. But underneath the lint, there's a really touching story about the mess of trauma. The dust bunny isn't just dirt, it's the accumulation of neglect in Aurora's life. It's the things swept under the rug. The bad foster parents, the loneliness, the fear. Fuller is arguing that we can't just kill trauma like Mads tried to do. We can't shoot it. We have to acknowledge it, own it, and learn to walk beside it. It's a beautiful message. I just wish it wasn't buried under a script that felt like 3 different drafts stapled together. The pacing issues in the middle really hurt this theme because by the time we get to the "you must control it" speech, we're just relieved the movie is ending. So where does that leave us with Dust Bunny? I love the wild swings this movie took. I respect that it exists in a world of safe corporate blockbusters. This is weird, singular, and beautifully shot. The visual style, for me, is a 10 out of 10. The visuals and the concept of gateway horror film, if you have a brave 10-year-old, this might be their favorite movie. The worst thing for me is the cohesion, the action, the whimsy, the horror. It just never gelled for me. It felt like a puzzle where the pieces were jammed together with a hammer. So overall, I'm giving Dust Bunny a 2.5 out of 5 stars. It's not bad, but it's a disappointment considering the talent involved. Bryan Fuller is a genius, but this one needed a bit more time in the oven, or maybe less dust. If you're curious, I wouldn't rush to the theater. Wait for streaming. It's a perfect Tuesday night on a couch movie, but not a Friday night out movie. But hey, I want to know what you think. Who is the director you love who keeps making choices that break your heart? Is it Fuller? Is it someone else? Let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, you know what to do. Hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into weird cinema. And I'll see you in the next one. Stay weird.